Hello everyone, it's Alexandra. I'm glad to be back here and share a new project with all of you. The project was created with one of the newest paper collections from Vectoria Designs. The name of the paper collection is Steampunk World. The papers are really gorgeous, one of the most beautiful steampunk collections that I have been lucky to create with. And my set, as you can see, includes a journal and a box. I think I want to show you the box first and then move on to the journal. The box measures roughly 3.5 inches by 4, and it is about 2 inches deep. This is the front of the box. I do believe that the gold foil paper worked here really nice with the rest of the papers from the Steampunk World collection. I really like the brown tones of most of the paper designs. So on the front here, I have layered a piece of foiled cardstock and one of the pattern papers, along with the circle cut out and that clock in the background. I also used one of the images from the journal pages, which had this beautiful lady on it. I used glossy accents to accent her goggles. And here I have added a little charm, which is attached with the help of that piece of a chain to the rest of the layers on the box. Here on the sides, as well as at the bottom of the box, I have strips of gold foil paper, and to the side panels of the box I have also added some bronze cogs with the help of these tiny brads, so they can be even turned like so, and I think it's really cool. So the box has this kind of a sleeve and then a drawer, and I have attached the pull to the drawer, which makes it really easy to take the drawer out of the sleeve, and you can actually decide how you want the drawer to be. You can put it like this if you plan to store the box flat on the shelf or anywhere, or you can put the drawer like that, and then the pull will be on top, and you can actually display the box on the shelf like so, in the standing position. Inside the drawer, I have a few ATC cards that I have created using the page designs for a journal from the paper collection, and I have printed 4 pages per sheet to get the size that was needed for making the ATC cards. So this is the first ATC card with this top hat gentleman. I really like this image. Then there is this card right here, and I have paired the designs with some of the dies that I thought matched the steampunk theme. Then I have this card with the bird and some cogs in there, and the fourth and the last card is this one with the man and the propeller on his head, and I have added the hot air balloon in the background right behind the image. So here are the ATC cards, and they go back to the drawer. By the way, this is how the drawer is embellished with the absolutely wonderful and beautiful papers from the Steampunk World paper collection. The box is really sturdy and feels super nice to hold. I hope you will enjoy making it. I will show you how to make the base of the box, although I will not cover the rest of the process which is all about embellishing the box in that tutorial. I hope the pictures will be enough for you to measure the side panels of the box and the drawer and replicate the design in case you want to do that. The journal this time has a hard spine and a flat spine. That's because I wanted to have the shaker element on the spine right here, and here are the cogs. This one decided to have a bit of a rest in there, but it was moving inside the shaker element as well. And there is another shaker on the front of the album with a few additional gears in it. There is the key, which is attached to the cover again with a piece of a chain. And just like on the box, on the journal, I have also used the gold foiled paper for adding some cogs in here, along with the bronze cogs on the cover. And yeah, that's how it looks. Here is the back with the gold foiled paper in there. That's how it looks from the top. And let's see what the journal has inside. So here is the first signature and the inside of the front cover. The inside of the front cover has a few tags inside the pockets. I have also embellished the pockets with a few elements from the cut apart sheets that go with the paper collection. I have added a little pocket using acetate and a piece of gold foiled paper there at the top, and I have included some of the cute little tickets inside the pocket there. So they go back. We have 3 cards or tags, however you want to call it. These are all from the paper collection. I haven't embellished the back because I think it will be nice to journal on the back of all of these cards. And then I also have this so-called jumbo tag. It is quite big. It measures about 5 inches by 8 inches. And on the tag, I have, once again, a few embellishments from the cut apart sheets. Here I have created sort of a closure for a few pages and a little notebook. And once you flip all the pages to the top, there is this little cut in the paper layer, and it serves as a pocket for holding this additional tag in here behind the notebook. So let's lock the pages with the help of this stopper and put the tag back into the pocket. And here we have, in my opinion, an interesting element. The paper collection included 2 designs of this shape right here that you see on top, and I have used one of the designs to create this watch. To create the face of the watch, I used a clear epoxy sticker. I have also added some gems and some rivets. I have made this leather watch band, and this is how it looks in the back. I have also added some gears and cogs instead of the closures, and I have stitched some of the tiny bands that usually hold the band closed together. I have also created the larger base for a watch using a few layers of cardstock and also that gold foiled cardstock to match the rest of the style of the journal. So I think that this watch can easily be used as a bookmark in a journal because it is quite flat, or relatively flat, and you can easily move it to any page that you want, and then to secure it on top of the page with the help of that metal gear. So that's the watch. Let's put it aside and look at the pages. The journal has 3 signatures, and here you can see them better. So the first signature, as the rest of the signatures, is a combination of double-sided printed pages from the paper collection, as well as some plain tea-dyed pages that I have embellished to my liking using some stencils and also additional elements from the paper collection. So that's the first page of the first signature. I think I will just flip through the pages and show you which elements I have on the inside. So here I have created a corner pocket using the embellishment from the paper collection. Here I have added some stenciling. Here we have a printed page. Here again, I have the cutout from the paper collection and some stenciling there in the background. I have stitched in a few places on paper to make it look more interesting. Here we have just a label which is attached with a staple to the page. Here I have another corner tuck with a card and this garment pin and a gear attached to it. Everything is plain in the back, again, as I wanted to have more journaling space. The pages in this collection are really, really nice. I like all the characters that you will see on the pages, and the colors are so good. I like the vintage look of this paper line, as well as of many other paper collections by Vectoria Designs. Of course, as any steampunk themed journal, I had to have the chains. Here I have added some pockets with vellum windows and included some tags that I cut out using a few leftover pieces from the paper collection. Again, some stenciling and layering of the elements from the cut apart sheets, a pocket with a ticket and a tag on the inside, another printed page. Here I have layered a piece of paper, stitched on top of it, added a piece of fabric, and also stenciled on this page, as well as added this hot air balloon from the cut apart sheets. Another printed page. I like this dude very much. So here I have a little notebook that I have created using one of the elements from the cut apart sheets. So I just folded it in half and added a few tea stain pages to the inside and stapled everything with a plain staple. So it goes on top of the page like that and is kept there with the help of the paper clip. More beautiful pages. I like this image as well, and that's why I used it on the front of my box. The designs are so beautiful. So here we have the beginning of the second signature and more beautiful pages. I have a large pocket here, and the pocket was included in the elements of the paper collection. Here we have a sort of a belly band with a journaling card, which is going behind the belly band. Here we have that sort of the file folder, which the collection includes. And from the file folder, again, I have created a tiny notebook with just a few pages in it, also stapled to the very thin spine of the file folder, and it goes just over the side of the page like that. Is being capped again on the page with the help of the paper clip, and I have tucked a little ticket on the side as well. We have more pages in here and another pocket with a tag. So these pockets were actually the ones that had those additional images on them, which I cut out and used for creating the ATC cards. The leftovers were used on the pages of the journal for making these pockets. Some more stenciling and printed pages. Here we have an envelope, and there is just a plain card inside the envelope, but here is how the envelope looks like. Everything is so matching and looks so good. I really like this paper collection. More stenciling on the pages. Here I wanted to create something fun, so I just stapled 2 tickets to the pages and then glued down some of the cogs as well. Some more stenciling and more printed pages. Here I have stapled 2 tags to the page, and these are included in the cut apart sheets of the collection. Another pocket with a window and a tag, which is hiding behind. Here more stenciling, and I have added some punched out gold foiled circles to the parts of the clock. Here I have made simple collaging. I like this page a lot with different blueprints and the clock and the cogs. This is just an envelope that I have created for holding the leftover pieces from the collection, and there is not a lot left. I also have some tiny pieces of page designs in here, and not only the cut apart elements that I didn't get a chance to use on the pages yet. More stenciling and printed pages. Here I have a tuck for a card or a tag. Here I have created a little envelope that holds a tag. And I think stenciling adds also a lot to the pages. Here on this page I have created a pocket and put a few journaling cards in it. I have added the label that says Voyage in here, and in the corner we have some stenciling, and this image is a cutout. This page is also really nice. So here is that man with the top hat, and just happened so that I had the glasses and the mustache in the matching size, so I die cut them from that gold foiled paper and glued them down on top of the image. I think it looks very interesting like this. Here on this spread I have 2 corner pockets and just a few stapled together tags and tickets. The same thing here. Here I had a few leftover die cut propellers that I have glued down to the page. On this page we have two pockets, and each holds a journaling card. Here I have created a tuck with the help of those sort of tickets that are included in the paper collection, and more tickets are just tucked behind. Here I have a cutout of the gears, and I had a punched out circle again, so I used it there. On this page we have a pocket with a tag and sort of belly band on the side of the page that holds two more tickets. And we are almost done. There is this page that has a corner pocket with a few more cards and tickets in it. And in the back, I have the same pockets design as the one that I had in the front. Just different papers and different size of this clear pocket for a tag again. And here I have created a slot for additional tickets. There are two more journaling cards that go into the smaller pocket, and there is an additional jumbo tag on the inside of the back cover as well. The design is the same. There is a slot in the designer paper for holding a tag, and this notebook is stitched to the designer paper, which is later on glued down to the craft cardstock here. This stopper holds the pages of the notebook together and prevents it from unfolding, so you can easily put it back into the pocket. And that's all from me for today. I hope you like the project. I hope you will give it a go. If you have any questions while you work on your version of the journal and the ATC box, please ask them in the description box down below. I will do my best to get back to you with the answers. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye. See you soon. I usually start creating a journal from building the signatures, but this time around, since I know what will be the size of the largest page in each one of the signatures, I will take that as my starting point, and I will work on the cover first. That's the folded in half letter size sheet, and once folded it measures 5.5 inches by 8.5. Depending on the size of the largest page that you are going to use for creating your journal, you will want to figure out the measurements for the cover. In my case, based on the measurements that I just gave you for the page itself, my covers will measure 5 7/8 by 8 3/4. You will need, of course, your front and back cover. And for the spine, I want to have 3 signatures in my journal. And also based on that, I decided that my spine will measure 8 3/4 inch long, the same as the height of the covers. And the width of the spine will be 1 5/8. And we will also have another piece that will be used for creating the shaker element on the spine of our book. And the chipboard piece for the shaker is going to measure 8 5/8 by 1.5. I will set this piece aside for now. We will get back to it later. But first we need to make the base of our cover. I'm going to use paper for wrapping the chipboard pieces, and the paper that I'm using is the craft cardstock here. I'm going with the lighter weight of craft cardstock this time. And here you can see which paper I decided to use. I have 2 sheets of that cardstock here, and onto one of the sheets I have applied along the long side a strip of double-sided tape, and this is score tape. I am going to connect both of these pieces together for getting a larger piece that will be enough for layering the pieces of my cover on it and wrapping up the sides. Okay, so let's take the backing off the double-sided tape, and now I will just do my best and connect both of those paper pieces together. Okay, now we have a large piece of paper that we're ready to keep on working with. Now for wrapping the covers, I will need at least 1/2 inch flaps on all the 4 sides. And I will start by creating a guideline at the bottom of the large cardstock piece. And I think 1/2 inch is good enough, but I think I will go with the flap of 3/4 inch in this case. I will draw a guideline 3/4 inch away from the bottom edge of the paper. I want the seam to be in the center of the spine, just like that. So I will start gluing down my cover pieces onto the cardstock from the spine. Now I will do the same with the covers. I will look at the bottom guideline for making sure that I layer the chipboard cover straight on the surface of the cardstock, and I will need to leave about 1/8 inch gap between both of the covers and the spine. So you can either measure that and just draw an additional guideline on the left and the right hand side from the spine. I will use my ruler as a guide. Now I will trim the excess paper on 3 sides, making sure that I leave 3/4 inch border all around. So you can either mark it first with a pencil and then take it to your trimmer and cut it off, or you can use your craft knife right away. I think the short sides can fit into the trimmer, but actually for the second long side, we are going to use either scissors or a craft knife, whatever you feel is more comfortable for you. I will do that offline and get back to you once I'm done. And this is what you have once done. Now we have to miter all of our 4 corners of the cover, and for that I am going to use my corner mitering tool. You don't have to use any tools, just make sure that you leave about 1/8 inch from the corner of the chipboard to the cut line. Now once we have this done, we're going to fold the flaps, and I like to begin with the longer flaps first. So I'm going to train the paper to fold in the beginning. And I will even use my bone folder for burnishing down the edge, like so. And now you can either use any type of wet glue that you usually work with, or again apply the double-sided adhesive along the edge of the chipboard and then seal the flap. I'm going to use my tacky glue for this. Always start gluing down from the center and work your way to the sides. It is way easier to do it that way. Okay, now it's time for doing the very same thing for wrapping the short sides. And just like that, the base of our cover is ready. Now I want to work on the spine, and as I mentioned before, I want to add the shaker to the spine. I think it will be better at this stage to distress all the edges of our cover, and especially on the spine, because then it will be easier for us to see where exactly the spine is. This is what I was talking about. Now I can see where the spine of the future book will be. And we will now get to this chipboard piece that I have mentioned before. It measures 8 5/8 by 1.5. And I have a 1/4 inch border all around that I'm going to use for cutting out the central part of this piece. Okay, this is the piece that we will keep on working with. I will discard this section of the chipboard or maybe use it for something else, but not right now. I will take another piece of that same cardstock that I am working with today, and I will now have to apply some glue to the back of my frame and glue it down onto the paper. For folding the flaps in, I will have to leave a border of 1/4 inch all around, so I'm going to glue the frame closer to one of the corners on the paper, about 1/4 inch away from the edge. Okay, now I will take this paper piece to my trimmer and cut the excess paper about 1/4 inch away from the edge, from the right hand edge of the chipboard frame. And I will also cut the excess piece here at the bottom and get back to you. Here we go. This is what we have. Next, we will need to make some more cuts on the paper layer here. I will once again use my my ruler with the marks on it, because it makes it very easy to see. For example, I need to leave about 1/4 inch here from the inner edge of the chipboard. As you can see, the line doesn't go all the way from the edge of the chipboard on the short side. I went 1/4 inch down, and I left about 1/4 inch here at the bottom. I will do the same on the opposite long side of the frame, like so. And now I will just connect both of the corners. and cut the inside paper piece out. Now I will cut at an angle from the inside corner of the chipboard frame towards the cut out paper area, like so. Okay, now we can go ahead and train our paper first to fold the way we want it to fold, and it's really easy to work with this thinner paper. That's what we have right now. I will now trim the corners on the outside of this frame and wrap the flaps the same way as we did with the cover. The flap doesn't overlap the inside of the frame. Just make sure that in your case it is the same way, and if it does, then you might need to trim it a little bit to make sure that it doesn't show from the edge of the frame when you flip it to the front. Okay, now it's ready, and we can go ahead and once again distress all the edges, both on the outside of the frame and on the inside. Let's move on now. Our shaker frame is ready, and before gluing it down to the spine, of course, we need to prepare another paper layer to be in the background of our shaker. Here is the paper that I chose. It was a piece from this paper design, and the paper piece measures the same as the chipboard piece that we used for creating the frame, which is 8 5/8 by 1 1/2. If you distress the edges of the cover until now, do the same thing for this layer of paper, and you are going to glue it down in the center of the spine. Make sure that you center it nicely. We have to think about the filling for our shaker. Since it is a steampunk journal, of course, some cogs would be nice. So I have here a few cogs that I chose from the ones that I had in my stash. What's important here is the fact that, first of all, the cogs will fit inside the opening of the shaker, and that they will be flat enough so that when, for example, you put them inside the shaker and, for example, you use your ruler to slide it on top, nothing prevents the ruler from moving and nothing stops it. So make sure that the cogs that you are using are not tall, and they all are relatively the same height, so that they all fit inside the shaker. I will have to create the shaker itself, right? The window, the shaker window. For that purpose, we will need a piece of paper, another one from the collection, and here is the paper design that I chose. I really like the colors of the papers in this collection. So the size of the paper again is about the same as the window, but I just made it a little bit shorter and narrower so that I can see just a bit of the frame itself. You don't have to do that. And basically the size of this paper piece should be the same as the size of that one. 8 5/8 by 1.5. I also applied some score tape on the back of this paper piece, and I'm using 1/4 inch score tape. It is important because the score tape itself will be our guide for cutting out the opening in this paper piece. So when you apply the score tape, make sure that you go right along the edge of the paper. I will take my ruler, and as a matter of fact, I will use this side because I want the ruler to stop right next to the edge of the score tape. And you can even see how it stops there, and I can't move it all the way to the right hand side of the paper anymore. Okay, so that's what I need. I will take my crepe knife now, and I will start to cut from the top, but not right from the top, from the edge of the tiny score tape piece that I have in there. And I will slowly move my way down and stop right where the piece of score tape is at the bottom of my paper. Now, here I think I didn't cut all the way through. And when you do that, just make sure that you work slowly, because I, for example, am using this metal ruler and it slides. It wants to slide on me. So I'm holding it really tight. And this is what we have. I had a little bit of a problem right here, but I think I will just use my distress ink for correcting that. Let's do the same on the rest of our frame. And I think, you know what, I think I could even do that without using the ruler. So if your hand is steady enough, you can just cut along the edge of the score tape without even using the ruler. I think for me it's even easier to do it that way. Okay, so I have my frame. I'm going to distress the edges, both of the inside and of the outside of the frame. Next, we will need a piece of acetate so that we can glue our paper frame onto that acetate, just like that. And on purpose, I am not cutting the acetate piece to be the same size as the frame, because it will be, well, at least for me, it was a little bit more difficult to match both the paper piece and the acetate together. So I will just glue it down like that and then trim off the excess. And the way I do that is this. I remove first the tiny piece of the backing from the score tape on one of the short sides, and then I attach the frame on that side. Next, I just flip it up and remove one of the longer sides, and I am trying to work very slowly because I do not want to distort the paper piece while I'm doing that. Next, I will do the same but this time I will remove the backing both from the long side of the paper and that additional short piece in there, and I will let me fold this just a little bit so that, okay, I can work my way through this. I will attach that narrow side and then remove the backing from the long side and glue it down as well. So this way, when you work slowly and remove the paper backing from the score tape one by one, the paper layer stays straight, and it's easier to do it that way. So now I am just going to use either my scissors or a craft knife in order to cut out my paper layer together with the acetate along the edges of the paper frame itself. Here is our window. For gluing it down on top of the chipboard frame, once again we will use our score tape, and again we will apply it just along the edge of the paper that we can see in there. But as a matter of fact, we apply it onto the acetate, but the paper that we have underneath makes it easier to see where exactly the edge is. And I will trim the score tape with my scissors. So I have started from the short sides, and I will now apply the tape onto the long sides. Just like that. Make sure that you go right along the edge. And burnish. Let's glue the chipboard frame down to the spine of our book. And for that, since it is paper to paper that we are gluing down, I will use the regular tacky glue. Since we have this paper layer already on the spine, it's easy to see where exactly this frame needs to go. So once again, we'll just make sure that we center it between the folds of the cover, and make sure that we burnish nicely and glue both of the pieces together very well. Next, we can put in our shaker elements, and you can position the cogs the way you want. You can add as little or as much as you want. I think I want them to fill only half of the height of the spine because I want them to actually move in there, but you can add more for sure. So we have this piece ready, and I will work the same way as before. And you know, I think I'm going to lift just a little bit on the long sides and then remove the backing from the short side completely. And then I will start to actually align and see where exactly my frame needs to go on top of the chipboard frame, starting from where the backing is still attached to the paper frame, because then I can easily move the piece and adjust the placement better that way. Okay, so now I can remove the backing from that little piece, and start gluing down the frame on the long sides as well. And let's see how our cogs move in there inside the spine. It works, and we can continue to embellish the front and the back of our covers. So for the front of the cover, I already have the piece that I want to use. I chose this page design with the steampunk crane, I suppose. As you can see, the paper is too big for the front cover, and I have just added a golden frame. For creating the frame, I used 2 circle dies. I need to cut out the paper piece for the front cover that will be of the exact size and have the crane in the center. So first of all, I will make a template using the plain printing paper, and here is my template. Now I will just put it behind my paper piece, and I will look at this paper piece against the light of the lamp. I will try to align the template and make sure that the crane is in the center, and then once I flip the page to the back, I will just trace with the pencil the outline of the template, and I will know where exactly to cut my paper. Something like this. And while doing that, you can also decide if you want the frame with the crane to be closer to the top or maybe in the center of your page. Let me cut this piece out and then show you how it fits on the cover. And this is how it will look like on the cover once we glue it down. And you will use the same paper measurement for cutting out a piece for the back of your cover. This is how it looks so far. I want to embellish the cover a little bit more. So the plan is to add another shaker right here with some additional cogs, of course, on the inside. And for creating the shaker, I am using the circle die that I have here. I have connected 2 of the dies together with little pieces of washi tape, and I just chose from the set of the circle dies that I had 2 of the sizes that I think will look nice on the cover. And then what I did was I cut 1 layer out of gold foiled paper for the top of the shaker. Let me show you which paper I'm using. This one is from Michaels. It is by Recollections. Then for creating some dimension for the shaker so that it can accommodate a few cogs on the inside, I went ahead and cut 4 layers without disconnecting the dies so that they are the same size. So these layers are cut from the lightweight chipboard, or I know in some other places people call it gray board. I think it is the same thickness and weight as they use for making packaging for cornflakes and cookies and whatnot. I am going now to separate 2 of the dies because I need now to use the larger one for cutting out the background piece for my shaker, and I'm going to use this design from the collection. I think I'm going to cut this section with the text, and or maybe with the train. I don't know, maybe with the train, you know. Yeah, I think the train looks cool too. So I will think about it. Not sure yet, but I will use the larger piece for cutting out the background for my shaker, and also I will use it for cutting out the piece of acetate. And here I cut out a piece for the background with a train eventually, and a piece of acetate to put behind the golden frame. We can go ahead and glue down together all the 4 layers of the gray board. I think that's what I'm going to do right now. And I have stopped right now because I glued 3 pieces together, and I just want to show you something. The same way we checked that the height of the shaker is enough for accommodating the cogs on the inside, we placed the cogs inside the frame and moved the ruler on top of it. So here, as you can see, I thought that the height of the shaker is already enough for all the cogs to move there freely, but I can see that this cog is being moved by the piece of the chipboard that I'm using for checking the height. For that, I will have to use the 4th piece on top. But if the cogs that you chose are a little bit thinner than mine, you can probably use only 3 layers for the shaker. Okay, so that's just something that I wanted to point out. Now, once they're all glued together, I will go ahead and color this circle frame both on the outside and on the inside. Now, if you will try to put your shaker on top of the frame right now, you will see that it kind of shakes, and I want to level it up. And it shakes because of the layer of that gold foil paper. For that, I have here 2 pieces. One piece is the same gray board that we used for the layers of the frame. And one piece is printing paper template. So what I'm going to do with the template is this. I will first see where exactly I want my shaker frame to be. And I will start to use my fingernail for tracing the edge of the gold foiled paper. This is what we have. You can see the embossed line in there. So that's something that will help us to level our shaker on top of this frame. Now we can take our scissors and cut this circle apart into 2 parts, like so. I'm just following that guideline, the embossed guideline that I have created. Now we will have to create the same shape of the pieces using our gray board. So I'm going to trace the line of one of the shapes and cut it out. And then take another piece and make sure that you don't flip it so that the direction stays the same. I'm going now to cut out another piece of gray board like so. Now I can go ahead and apply the glue. Oh, don't forget to distress the edge of this paper piece, and this one, the same thing. I think on the inside, it's not important to distress. It will not be seen, but on the outside, most definitely yes. Okay, let's make sure that we still have it positioned the right way. And I think we do. Okay, so let me apply the glue to the back of this piece first and glue it down. Now I can glue down the second piece right next to it. This is how it looks right now. Next I will take the background piece with the train and I will glue it down on top of the gray board. Now it's all flat and leveled, and we can go ahead and glue the chipboard pieces on top. I have added the cogs to the inside of the frame, and I will now take care of the top layer. I will use my glossy accents for gluing down the foiled cardstock to the acetate, and I will use the glossy accents again for applying just a little amount onto the acetate and then gluing it down on top of the gray board frame. And here is our shaker on the front frame, ready as well. I have attached this key with the help of another jump ring to a piece of chain, and I'm going to secure the chain now on the cover with just a little brad. I think I will stop here and work on the signatures now. Now we will work on creating the binding for our signatures. And let me quickly explain to you what we will be doing here. So our journal will have 3 signatures. I will not cover in this tutorial the way I embellish the signatures. I'm printing all of the page designs, the full page designs, on both sides. There are 24 designs that each one of the Vectoria Designs paper collections usually includes. So I print all of the 24 designs on both sides, and that gives me 12 double-sided full pages that I, of course, fold in half to create the signatures. And each one of my signatures includes 4 printed pages, and I also like to add 4 tea-dyed letter size papers folded in half. So my laser printer cannot print borderless. That's why almost always my printed pages are a little bit shorter and narrower than the tea-dyed pages. Each one of the 3 signatures, I will just alternate and mix the printed pages with the tea-dyed, or maybe I will add other kind of pages from different notebooks that I have. I am still not sure, but the binding that I'm going to create for all the pages will be done like this. First of all, I have a piece of the same gray board that we used for creating the frame on the cover. So that's the gray board. This piece measures 8.5 inches by 1.5. I have sketched some lines on this piece. So the vertical lines are spaced at 3/8 of an inch, each one of them. So the first one is at 3/8 of an inch, then the middle one is at 3/4, and the third one is at 1 1/8. And then the horizontal lines are actually in the places where I will later on poke the holes for binding my signatures. And they are at 1.5 inch from the top, at 4.25, and at 7 inches. And for wrapping this piece, I will use the copy paper. One piece of information that I forgot to mention are the actual holes. I punched them out using this tool. You can also use an awl. So they are at the intersection of the horizontal and vertical lines. Once it's all wrapped in paper, don't forget to distress the edges. Next, I will repoke the holes. I will then take a piece of muslin, and this is tea-dyed muslin that I have. It should be about 1/4 up to 1/2 inch shorter than the gray board piece wrapped in paper. And I like to tear the fabric so that the edge is kind of fuzzy. We are going to stitch the piece of gray board to the fabric, and then we're going to glue the side flaps to the cover. I think I don't want the flaps to be this wide, so I'm going to trim this piece just a little bit. As you can see, I made a little cut with the scissors and then just tore the rest of the fabric. We will take this fabric piece and kind of put it on top of the area of the spine, and I'm trying to stretch it so that it's staying in place. Now I will add glue to the back of the gray board and glue this piece on top of the fabric. Now I applied glue all the way to the top and the bottom of the gray board, although I don't think I need the glue to be there, so I will just not burnish on top of that area, and I will just wipe the glue off from there. Now I will take this piece to my sewing machine and I will stitch all around the middle part where the gray board is, to make sure that the fabric is connected tightly to the paper. Okay, it's all stitched and done. This is what we have. Next, I am ready to stitch the signatures in. So here are my signatures. I clipped the pages together so that everything stays in place. I will start with the first signature here, and I will just poke, I think I need to, okay, to move the clip a little bit. So to poke the holes, I will be using the template, and as I mentioned before, the holes in the template are in the same places where they are on the binding piece on our inner spine, so the holes match. And I will now, I think I need to straighten this just a little bit, so I will clip the pages back together and use my template for poking the holes. Now I will do the same for the remaining signatures, but for now I will only work with this one. And it's done. All of the signatures have been sewn down to the spine. This is how it looks in the back. So I will take the cover again, and I will first make sure that I apply the glue to this whole area, and I will also apply some wet glue inside these folds and on the edges of the spine close to the folds. Now I will apply the glue to the whole area of the spine here. Now I will hold the flaps of the fabric so that they're up straight, and I will attach the signatures together with the inner spine to the spine of the cover. This inner spine and the signatures are attached to the cover of our journal, and this is how it looks. So next we are going to kind of see up to where we need to apply the glue for gluing the flaps down to the front and the back cover of the journal. So that's what I'm doing now. The journal is now finished, and what's left to do is only to add the end papers, so to say, to the inside of the back and front cover, and embellish them the way you want. Maybe add some pockets. I have created a few ATC cards to go with the journal, and I wanted a place to put them somewhere. So let's create a box in the matching style and design to the journal. I want to create the sleeve that the box goes into first, and for that we are going to need 4 pieces of chipboard. 2 of them measure 3 1/4 by 4 1/8, and another 2 measure 1 7/8 by 4 1/8. I am using a craft cardstock, and this is the packaging, if you wonder. I cut the letter size sheet, which is 8.5 by 11. I cut to the width of 5 1/8 of an inch, and I also have here another piece which is 5 1/8 of an inch long by about 2.5 inches wide. I have applied a strip of double-sided tape to that little piece, and that's because I want to attach it on the side of the larger piece of cardstock for getting one long piece that will be enough to hold all the pieces of chipboard that I previously showed you. And I need to have about 1/2 inch borders. Let's connect 2 of the pieces first just to make sure that we already have that done. And I'm overlapping both of the pieces by a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, because that was the width of the double-sided tape that I have used. So that's where my seam is, and I think you can see that. So when I will be layering my chipboard pieces onto this cardstock, I just want to make sure that the seam will not be in the place of one of the folds. This will be my bottom edge. I will use my ruler and draw a guideline 1/2 inch away from the outer edge of the cardstock piece. Okay, and I will also draw a guideline right here 1/2 inch away from the left hand edge of my cardstock. I think now we're good to go, and we can start and glue our chipboard pieces down onto the craft cardstock. For that purpose, I will just use my tacky glue. And once I have this piece attached to the cardstock, I want to start and fold the cardstock just like that together with the chipboard piece, which is on top of it. And once I fold it at a straight angle of 90 degrees, I want to grab a pencil and draw a line right against the edge of the chipboard piece. And then when I unfold the previous piece, you will see that the guideline is here, and this gap will be enough for us to fold perfectly nice the sides of the box's sleeve that we are working on. So I will take my next chipboard piece, and now I will use my bottom guideline and the guideline that I drew just a second ago to apply the next piece of chipboard onto the cardstock. Next, I will do the same thing that I did before. I will fold this chipboard piece, and I will once again draw a guideline right next to its edge. Unfold, and again, just as before, I will use the bottom line and the guideline on my left hand side for attaching this chipboard piece down to the paper. Now that we have that done, I can take my ruler again and just draw a guideline 1/2 inch away from the edge of the last chipboard piece, and then cut along that line and trim the excess cardstock off like that. Next, we're going to fold the edges on top and at the bottom of our chipboard piece. I will do the same on the left and right hand side. We have to miter the corners. Next, you can either use double-sided tape again for applying it right along the long edges of the chipboard piece that we're working on, or like I do, you can choose to use your wet glue. Next, I want to make sure that my folds are going to work nicely once I need them to get folded, and I will just use my bone folder to kind of find the folds again. between the chipboard pieces. We're going to see which way the sleeve folds better, like this with the right hand flap on top or with the left hand flap on top. And in my case, the right hand flap on top I think will work better because the shape of the box is just what we need. I will apply score tape to this side of the flap because it will go on top. And then I will need to apply some score tape here as well. And this flap will go on the inside of the box. We can now work on the reinforcement hinges for the corners of our sleeve, and for that we will need a few pieces of cardstock. They will measure 4 inches by 1, and I already scored a line right along the center. I will fold each one of the hinges now. I'll burnish the fold line using my bone folder. And now I just want to cut the corners like that. This is how it looks once unfolded. You're either going to use the double-sided score tape and apply it to both halves of the hinge, making sure that you don't overlap the score line, or this time I just decided to go with wet glue for this step. Now I am just going to kind of slide it into the corner, and since I'm using the wet glue, I have a few seconds to move the hinge around and make sure that I find a perfect placement for it. And then I will just use my bone folder for burnishing and gluing the hinge down like so. I will speed this process up and be back to you once all the hinges are glued down. And it is done. This is how it looks on the inside. And next we are going to glue a few pieces of cardstock to cover the chipboard that we still can see on the inside in there. And so 2 of them will be 1 3/4 by 4, and 2 additional ones will be 3 by 4 inches. I am going to use my wet glue again and glue each one of them to the inside of the sleeve, making sure that I align everything along the edges, leaving a little border. Take your time to glue down the edges here and here, especially nice because our drawer will go on the inside, and we just want to make sure that the cardstock here doesn't lift. So here is our sleeve done and ready. And next we're going to work on the drawer. For the drawer, you are going to prepare 5 more pieces of chipboard, and they are going to measure as follows. The middle piece will be 3 by 4 inches. Then for the sides, you're going to need 2 pieces that measure 1 3/4 by 4. And two additional pieces are 1 3/4 by 3 1/8. For gluing the chipboard pieces down, we will again use a craft cardstock, and I have here a full letter size sheet, which is 8.5 by 11. I don't know what exactly the size of the piece will be that I am going to need, but I am sure that one sheet will be enough for this size of the box. And what I am going to do now is I am going to draw two guidelines. Each one will be 1/2 inch away from the edge on this side and on this side. And then I will draw another set of guidelines, which will be 1 3/4 of an inch away from the guidelines that I have previously created. Now I can go ahead and take my middle piece and glue it down along the guidelines that I have here. Next, I will work in the same way that I used for finding the perfect placement for the chipboard pieces while creating the sleeve. So I will fold the cardstock on this side and on this side, making sure that I am getting really close to the edge of the chipboard piece. And you can definitely use your bone folder for that. Okay, this is what you have on the front or on the back, depends on how you look at it, right? On the back of the cardstock piece. And I will do the same on these sides. Again, just make sure that you burnish nicely. Okay, and now once I fold the cardstock, I will just make sure again that I am holding the cardstock and the chipboard piece, which is glued down onto it, at a straight angle, and I will draw a guideline right along the edge of the chipboard. And I will do that on all 4 sides. Here I have the lines. Let me show them to you closer. Okay, so once we have the lines, we can go ahead and keep on attaching our chipboard pieces next to the middle one that we have glued down before. I will start with the longer panels. The width of our middle section of the drawer is 3 inches, and the width of this piece is 3 1/8. And that's because we want to cover the thickness of the side chipboard pieces once we fold everything and assemble the drawer. Okay, so this piece will later on cover both edges of the chipboard, and it will cover the width of the middle section. So I am going, since I have already created a few of such boxes, I can easily eyeball the placement, but you can go ahead and use the ruler. I definitely need the guideline, that's for sure. But as for the corners, I will just eyeball it. Okay. One is glued down. And don't forget to burnish. let's do it here on this side. Next, I will just take this to my trimmer and trim 1/2 inch away from the right hand side of the cardstock along this line, and 1/2 inch away from the chipboard pieces on this side along this guideline, and get back. Here it is. Next, in order to fold everything nicely, we need to make some cuts. I will first of all put the self-healing mat under my chipboard pieces to make sure that I don't cut through my table. And I will cut along this edge of the chipboard. I'm actually using the chipboard as my stopper to make sure that I don't cut too far away. Okay, so that's how we cut that. Now I will take my ruler and I will put it all the way up to the chipboard edge on this side, and I will cut from the corner of the chipboard down. Now on this edge, I will cut from the top of the cardstock up to the corner of the chipboard. So these are the cuts that we have done so far. I'll do the same on this side. I already have one cut, and I will cut now from the corner of the chipboard down and from the edge of the cardstock to the corner of the chipboard. So the same thing at the top and at the bottom. Next, I am going to use my scissors and just miter these sections and trim these sections off, cutting at a slight angle next to the chipboard piece. Same thing here. Now I will miter the corners on the narrower panels. And we also don't need these side flaps to be that long, so I will use my ruler and I will trim them down just a little bit so that they are 1.5 inch wide. I will do the same on this side. So I'm measuring 1.5 inch from the edge of the chipboard pieces, and I am trimming the axis. So that means that we're trimming about 3/4 inch away. Okay, and the last thing that we have to do before we actually start to assemble this drawer is to cut these flaps at an angle on the sides. Now it's time to assemble this. And the way it will be assembled is like so. Just as I already mentioned before, the side panel will cover, the shorter side panel will cover 2 of the longer ones, and this is how you're going to have it. Okay, so I will start to assemble it. I will apply some glue, and I will be using wet glue again for this. I will apply some wet glue to one of the flaps, and then I will apply just a bead of glue right along the edge of that narrow panel, and I will start to fold the longer side panel and attaching it to the narrower one making sure that the longer side panel reaches all the way to the working surface and nothing interferes with the fold in here. So just make sure that it doesn't overlap the edge of the middle piece and that it stays straight like that. Okay, so glue gives me some time to make sure that I positioned it all correctly, and now I can use my foam folder without pressing too much, but I still can burnish. And this is how one of the corners looks so far. Next, I will do the same on this side. This side is done. Let's just make sure that we burnish to keep it nice and tight. Okay, we will reinforce the corners, so not to worry about that. We can now work on this side, and I will probably speed this up. This is how it looks so far. Now I want to only start and fold these flaps in and burnish them just to make sure that once I get to the stage of gluing them down, they will lay down flat. So right now I am just folding them in and burnishing the edges. Okay, now we can unfold them and work on reinforcing the corners of my drawer. And for that I will need 4 pieces of cardstock, which are slightly less than 1 3/4 of an inch, maybe 1/16 of an inch less than that. So let me prepare these. And here they are. I will go ahead and again just reinforce the fold. And as usual, miter the corners. I will once again use my wet glue for adhering them to the corners of the box. And here I'm just burnishing again to form a nice looking corner. So back to these hinges, they will be glued down in each one of the 4 corners of the box, and before gluing them down, just make sure that they fit and the height of each one of the hinges is nice, that it doesn't extend further from the edge of the chipboard itself. I will speed the process of gluing each one of the hinges down and get back to you once ready. Four corners are reinforced. Next, we're going to need 2 hinges, which are 3 inches long by 1 inch wide. And again, they're scored down the center. I will miter the corners just as usual, and I will glue them down next to the narrower panels of my drawer, right here and here. And the last pair of hinges that we need are going to be slightly less than 4 inches, just a hair less. And I am going to miter the corners again and glue them down to the inside of my drawer right here. Okay, so our hinges are glued down to the inside of the drawer, and now it's time to fold in the top flaps. So before folding them, I think I'll start actually with the longer ones. I will apply some glue to the very edge of the chipboard to make sure that the paper adheres nicely to it. And now I will burnish on top of that edge and fold the flap itself to the inside. I'll make sure that I take my time adhering it down. If you're using score tape, maybe it will take you less time. Okay. And I will do the same for this flap. And now I will do the same for both of the remaining flaps. This is how our box looks like. This is the drawer. The corners look really nice. Of course, we need to embellish it with the pattern paper. Let's check that our ATC cards fit inside. I have a few that I have already created for this project. Here are the cards. I didn't back them yet with the information card, but I think they fit pretty nice inside the drawer, and I intentionally made it a little bit larger because if you will want to have some parts sticking out from the base of the ATC, it will still be able to go inside the drawer. The drawer is also pretty deep, so you can fit quite a bunch of cards inside this box.